Welcome to Business Insight Fredericton. I'm Krista Ross, CEO of the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce. Today, we're speaking to past presidents of the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce. And first up is Keir Clark, president of Clark Financial Advisory Group.
It was one of the most interesting years I think I've ever had, and certainly among the number that I had at the Chamber was probably the best year.
What would you say was the absolute highlight of your Chamber participation?
I think it may be hosting the rest of Canada here in Fredericton for the Canadian Chamber of Commerce.
As a business owner, how do you balance your business, your volunteer life, and your personal life? Some people call it work-life balance.
I split my volunteer work between a sort of a business-focused volunteer work and personal volunteer work. So I tend to keep 2 or 3 volunteer activities underway on the business side of things and about the same on the personal side of things at all times.
So as a community volunteer and as a volunteer in your business life as well, how do you justify taking that kind of time away from your business, and does it pay off?
I really feel as though it's a responsibility that I have to my community to spend time both personally and in the business realm. And so I really don't see it as time out of my business. It's just part of what I do.
I'd like to learn more about your business. Tell me about that. Tell me what you do, what are your products, your services. Tell me about your business.
So at Clark Financial Advisory Group, we focus on advanced financial wealth planning opportunities and portfolio management services for a small group of wealthy clients.
How did you get involved in that business, Keir, and how long have you been doing it?
I started in financial services at Scotiabank in 1980. So it has been some time. And this falls out of three things that I really need in life. One is the ability to focus on whatever task I have at hand. The other is a passion to really get a deep understanding of the people I work with as clients. And the third really is a bit of an interest and, I'd call it maybe a passion and aptitude for financial services.
How is the business structured? Do you have employees or partners? How does it all work?
We have a local group of 4 people and an extended group, a little bit like a gig economy sort of coming together on projects group that would expand to probably about 10 people internally. If we include others that help us on the portfolio management side as well, we from time to time will consult and regularly use the work of 20 to 30 people.
Who is your main clientele?
Successful independent business owners and high-income professionals. Physicians, accountants, lawyers, dentists.
How do you promote the business, Keir?
It's mainly word of mouth. When I think about acquisition of clients, it typically comes from either a client referring a friend or a family member, or through some center of influence in the community. It could be an accountant, a lawyer, that type of thing.
You are a long-term Fredericton business. To what do you attribute your longevity?
I think it's passion for what you do. I think it's good fortune and a little bit of determination and grit.
When you're looking at or thinking about the big picture, what do you find challenging as a business owner?
I think the most challenging thing in my business life is sifting and sorting through all the plethora of information that's coming at us now from 24/7 news sources, and trying to determine what of that is useful or meaningful and what of it can be ignored. That takes a great deal of time and effort.
As a business owner, what has been the most difficult thing you faced?
In my career, there have been about 12 temporary but significant wealth impairing events in markets and economic conditions. And during those times, it's always a challenge to personally stay focused on what matters, because the news flow at those times extraordinary and always negative. And then secondly, helping clients see their way past the immediate circumstance, because it's human nature to project forward whatever's happening today as though it's going to continue forever. And so people find themselves pretty concerned, I think sometimes scared, and I understand.
How do you feel about the economy and opportunities here in New Brunswick?
I think that New Brunswick will be fine if we can really engage with and welcome or open our minds, open our hearts to new Canadians and new generations.
When you think about things that impact your industry or any industry, tell me how COVID impacted your industry.
You know, in March and April of last year, when markets were just tumbling at a rate not seen before, you know, we were pretty concerned about that, as were many of our clients. But it's also led to transformational change in how we engage with clients, how clients engage with us. It's led to terrific efficiencies. It's led many people, many of our clients and ourselves, to look at our lives and make different decisions.
Tell me about organizations that have helped you in growing your business.
If I was to point to one organization, I would say the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce has been helpful in that regard. I think other volunteer organizations or other organizations we've volunteered with have also been helpful, but probably not to the same extent.
Keir, as a business owner, what is the best advice that you've received?
The best advice I'd be given will sound a little zany. It's from my dad, who told us when we were at the stage of having babies that we should sleep when the baby sleeps. That applies actually now in my life as well, and I think probably for all of us. Because if we're going to be able to function properly, help our clients the way we're capable of helping them, and maintain the perspective we need to maintain to do that work, we need to be rested.
If you were going to give advice, Keir, to someone who was interested in starting a business or going out on their own in business, what advice would you give them?
Do something they're passionate about. Be prepared to work really hard. Be prepared to be disappointed. Be prepared to be thrilled. And enjoy that cycle that happens anytime you're trying to start a new venture.
Keir, tell me, what are you most proud of as a business owner?
The reputation I've built over years of being an honest and reliable advisor and counselor, helping many people over those years reach their goals as comfortably as possible.
Welcome back to Business Insight Fredericton. I'm Krista Ross, CEO of the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce. In this episode, we're speaking to past presidents of the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce, and next up is Bob Chisholm of McDonald's Restaurants.
So it was a challenging year. You know, there was no travel, there was no meetings, there was no, sort of meeting people, getting to meet the people that are involved, which I think made it different.
So when did you get involved with the Chamber?
I've always been involved with chambers. I was president of the Caledonia Chamber of Commerce back in the early 2000s. And then I was involved in the chamber as a board member or a membership member in North Bay. And then when we came to Fredericton 9 years ago, I think it was about 7 years ago that I first got involved.
You've done other volunteer work. Tell me a bit about that.
So I've been involved with BFN, which is a smaller sister organization to the chamber. I've been involved in the junior golf program at the Fredericton Golf Club, and we're actually working with some other people to build some facilities for training and development of young golfers. I've been involved in the McDonald's toy drive with the Nashwaaksis Lions Club. That's probably one of our biggest events, that we collect toys for the Salvation Army.
So from a volunteer perspective, I know you also do McHappy Day. Tell me about that.
So McHappy Day is an international event that typically is once a year. and we raise money for a variety of charities. And part of it is the Ronald McDonald House, which is another organization I'm involved with, the national one. But most of the money we've raised locally has gone to the Everett Chalmers Hospital Foundation. And that's a group my wife and I are involved with.
That tells us a bit about your volunteer work and your volunteer life. Tell me a bit about your business.
McDonald's. So I think we're in year 66 as a world leader, which not many companies can say they've been a world leader for 66 years. So obviously here in Fredericton we have 5 locations that my wife and I own and run. We have about 300 employees. A little more than half of those would be part-time, and then the others would obviously be full-time. You know, we're in the food business, but a big part of our job is developing people, and particularly youth. A lot of times we're the first job someone has. And so we're proud of the fact that we teach them customer service, we teach them teamwork, we teach them discipline.
So McDonald's is a franchise. How long have you owned the franchise and how did you get into it?
We're right at the 20-year mark. We've been in 3 different cities. Started with 1 and you know, now we're at 5. A couple of my friends were into it before I was, and they had sort of told us about it. I was a huge McDonald's customer my whole life. And then my wife and I decided we really wanted to own our own business. But we liked the idea of the national experience. We didn't want to invent something. So through 2 of these friends, we applied, went through a process, and then went through an interview and a training process that I sort of did part-time. And then we waited. So we were training and waiting for probably 3 years before we got tapped on the shoulder with the first location we went to.
You mentioned having about 300 employees. Tell me, is it difficult or easy? How is it finding employees in these times?
So in these times, it's hard. I've never seen it like this, and it's every sector. So right now, you have to be on your game. You have to be offering lots of great things, not just pay, but benefits, hours of work, things like that.
So how do you differentiate yourself from others that might be in the business of hiring some of those young students who are looking for that part-time experience?
We really try to customize our experience to our employees' life. So we have flexible schedules, and we really work hard to support it when an employee of ours has a chance to go to a special sporting event or a school event, and they want to change their schedule. And so we allow that.
In terms of promoting your brand, a lot of that would be done nationally or even internationally. What do you do locally to enhance that brand recognition?
Well, try to be involved in organizations like the Chamber, Business Fredericton North. Try to support local sports. You know, if people need prizes for a golf tournament, or if we can give food prizes or things like that. Try to go to as many events as possible.
Who do you consider as your main competition, and how do you stay a step ahead of them?
Our biggest challenge is, you know, we want people to come to McDonald's, to think about McDonald's, regardless whether it's breakfast or lunch or dinner. One of the advantages we have is a lot of those competitors I mentioned by name don't serve breakfast. So they don't have that opportunity in the morning with a customer that we do. One of the other things that we've always tried to do is hours of operation. We really like being 7/24.
As an entrepreneur or as a business owner, what do you find your biggest challenge?
I would say latterly it's people. A year ago I would have said not people. I think, you know, the biggest challenge that we have is just making sure that when you're open 7/24, your facility is running the way it should. The other thing that's hard is when we have to say no to, I don't know, a donation or something, because the phone's ringing, there's lots of people at the door asking for help.
In the years that you've owned McDonald's restaurants, 3 cities, 5 locations here in Fredericton, what are you most proud of?
I guess I'm proud of the way my wife and I have moved 3 times and quickly gotten involved in the community and got to know people, and people knew the business was ours.
So during your year as president, what would you say was the highlight for you?
Probably the highlight was being recognized by different people who would come up and say, geez, I hear you're the president of the chamber. You know, what's that like? Or good for you? Or you know, would you consider this topic or something? And so, you know, sort of acting on behalf of a few people who I wouldn't have been approached before. Yeah, there's a lot of prestige to the position. Another highlight for me was the success of the organization in pivoting and dealing with COVID.
What advice would you give to someone thinking of volunteering?
Start with a committee, and then if it goes well, pursue becoming a director. Community involvement is something we need, but it's also extremely rewarding.
Welcome back to Business Insight Fredericton. I'm Krista Ross, CEO of the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce. In today's episode, we're speaking to past presidents of the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce. And in our final segment, we're speaking to Stuart Blair. Stuart, you were president of the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce in 1994-95. Tell us about your year.
It was a chance to go and meet a lot of the business people in the city of Fredericton and get involved in the city. And it was quite rewarding, not only for myself, but also for the chamber, I think, or for my business.
During all your years of volunteering with the chamber, what different roles did you play? Did you chair committees? What are the other aspects of your volunteerism?
I served on a number of different committees. Well, as past president was one that you have to do, but membership was one that I worked on for the chamber, and also we were doing a little bit of fundraising back then too, just trying to go and build funds into the chamber because we didn't have the membership that we have now.
Of all the years that you were involved as a volunteer and as a member, what would you say was the highlight of your time with the chamber?
Probably the year I was president was probably the highlight, and it was the year that we as a chamber decided to go and take on, well, we didn't decide to go, we had been asked by the federal government to take on the Fredericton Airport. And we got a great committee together and we took on the running of the airport at that time. And I think one of the other highlights was we came up with our mission statement, taking care of business that year. And it was a fun, but it actually spoke to what we do as a chamber.
Do you encourage your team here at Covey's to get involved in the community as well?
Yes, we've always encouraged our staff to get involved. If they're involved in a different organization or they have a certain cause that they want, Covey's will get behind them.
So you've told me a bit about your volunteer work. Tell me a bit about your business. How did you get involved in Covey's?
I was going to university and working part-time at our sister company next door, A to Z Rental Center. And my aunt and uncle had just bought this business in 1974. So they asked me if I'd like to come and work in the office supply business. And I went from chainsaws to sledgehammers, and I'm going to get in pens and pencils. And they said, well, really, we don't have an opening at A to Z. We need you at Covey. So I get involved with it. And I had no intention of going and staying in business at Covey's. But as you get into it, I get into your blood. And once I graduated from university, there was a chance for me to come on as manager at Covey's, and then it just never looked back.
So how many years ago was that? How many years have you been here with the business?
I am doing my 47th year this year.
If I were to say to you, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to pitch your business and tell people what you sell and what you do. Give me your pitch.
We are your local office products experts in Fredericton. We carry everything that the small to medium-sized office is going to need to operate their business.
So tell me how Covey's is structured. I know you are Covey Basics,
Yes.
but is that a franchise or how does it all work?
Currently, there's myself and 2 other partners that run Covey's. We own it and run it. The buying group, which is Basics, is there to give us the national buying power. And we're all owners of Basics, so it's not a franchisee by any means. We're actually owners and shareholders of the company.
How many employees do you have here at Covey's and how many locations do you have?
We have about 46 employees right now, and we have 3 locations. We have this location that we've been here since 1986. We have our one down Allison Boulevard, which is our head office and warehouse distribution center. And then in 2010, we merged with Carlton Office Supply up in Woodstock.
Do you find that in these times it's easy or difficult to find staff, or are most of your employees long-term?
We're very fortunate. We have some long-term employees, a lot of long-term employees, anywhere from 15, 20, 30. We even have a 35 this year. So It's good for Covey's. It's something that we try to treat as a family, and the people have been loyal to Covey's, and we try to be loyal to them. It's very challenging right now to find employees. I've been involved, like I said, for 47 years. I've never seen Covey's have a job order, which we did this summer for 5 employees we were looking for, with 5 openings, and it was tough to fill. It was just difficult through this COVID times for trying to go attract staff. You know, and with the job orders we have out there, we still have openings that we're looking for.
So as an employer, how do you differentiate yourself? How do you make Covey's more attractive as a place to work?
We try to go and project ourselves as being a family-orientated business, and we like to go and promote within. You know, anytime there's a job opening, the first thing we look for is who we have for talent that's on the inside. So we've always been that way, you know, take somebody and move them up the ladder a little bit.
Who is your main clientele at Covey's?
Small, medium business is our main clientele, and we also drift into the larger businesses.
Who would you say is your competition?
We're kind of fortunate that we really have no Canadian competition in office products. Everybody would be either an American-owned company or a foreign-owned company that's in the business right now. But now we have to watch over our shoulder too, because online ordering and Amazon is a major competitor to us these days.
So this is a good time to remind our viewers that they should be supporting local. If they want local to support them and their sports teams and hire people in the community and pay taxes, they need to support local businesses.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you know, support local. We like to go and give back to those that, you know, support us.
As an entrepreneur, what do you find challenging about running a business today?
I would say the biggest challenge you have is staff, you know, and people issues are probably the biggest challenge that you would have in any business.
How do you feel, Stuart, about the economy, about business opportunities, and about the future of business here in New Brunswick?
All through COVID, you're almost on a month-to-month. There was no template that we inherited to go forward on COVID. And one of the biggest changes we had with everybody working from home is we had to start going and delivering to local residents. And home office furniture and PPE products, you know, those are all things that we've had to change in the last couple of years. Our whole challenge on that is that we were very concerned about the safety of our staff and the safety of our employees. So even though we could have opened way back in the first of COVID, we decided not to open our doors until everything started to settle down a little bit. And even all through COVID, we had a team that were home that could step into any one of our locations to run it if we did happen to have a COVID outbreak.
Stuart, tell me a bit about the organizations that have helped Covey's along the way.
I would say one of the main organizations that helped Covey's has been the Chamber Movement. And we're very fortunate that we like to join every chamber in every city that we do business in. We belong to chambers. And the Fredericton Chamber has actually been one of our strong ones that we've dealt with. They've been a great advocate for business.
Given that this episode is about being a chamber president or a past president and volunteering, would you recommend that that's a good idea for someone who's just starting out in their career to consider doing some volunteer work?
I've always been a big advocate of volunteering, and you've got to get involved. You've got to attend some of the functions, and we're very fortunate with the Fredericton Chamber, along with many of the chambers. Pre-COVID, there were lots of opportunities to go out and network with people. And that's where you get your money's worth. You've got to partake in some of the programs, especially for somebody going to be in business. You've got to get your name out. You've got to go meet people out in the public. What
are you most proud of in your years here at Covey?
I guess the biggest thing I'm proud of is we've been able to go and grow ourselves from a small little business, been able to compete up against the big guys, and be able to employ a lot of great people over the years. And it's one of those family things.
We're always looking for great companies with a unique story to feature on the show. If you have suggestions, please get in touch with us.